Okay, I brought our mixture to a boil twice now, the second time, and now I'm going to pull some more of the fat off. I let it cool down, I got most of the fat. Tomorrow, after you're done with this whole thing, you're going to pull some more of it off probably. I like to keep as much of the fat out of this as I can, because that's where the strong taste comes from a lot of times, is in the fats of the meat, and that's okay. So here's what I do. I take my big spoon that I talked about earlier, and I simply just skim the top. And you'll get some little tiny pieces of the fat that looks like that. And I simply discard it in the pan, and we skim, and just get as much of it off as you can. You're never going to get it all, and that's okay. Okay? A little hunk of meat in that one. I've got most of it already, but I wanted to leave a little bit for the video's sake, how we're doing this. So once the fat's all off, we discard. And put our spoon in here. Here we go. And we're back at it again. Now, what I've done to prep is I took our potatoes and our onions and our green beans and our peas and carrots. I put 1 can of green beans, 1 can of peas and carrots, 2 onions, and I believe 3 or 4 potatoes, I believe it was. I prepped them all in a skillet, and I very carefully, because the mixture is hot again, as I take this back over to here, and yes, I wash my hands well, by the way, and I just put everything very easily and neatly in the pot, and just dump it off. Nice and easy. Give that a stir. And you'll notice now is the point where you start needing to add water or not, depends on how much you started with. And this is where I add my spices. I always start off with some more sea salt. Black pepper, because I love pepper. Dump some black pepper in. These are assorted seasonings that I had. It was in a pack, and I got a low on each one, so I combined them all into one jar and labeled them with a magic marker. And basically this is red peppers, chili peppers, some jalapenos, some black pepper and spices. And I believe a little bit of turmeric might be in there, but you can see through the assorted spices how nice it is. And I dump some of those in as well. Again, this is scrap stew, so we're using what we have. Okay? Using what we have. And then I go a little easy on this because my daughter, 14 years old, and she's still pretty sensitive, so she doesn't like a lot of hot. So I put about 3 or 4 big dashes of this in the stew. That helps to bring out the flavor in the meat, believe it or not. Okay? And then I stir it up. Anything that I see floating on the top that I don't like, we can skim off with a spoon. The meat should be nice and tender and starting to come apart at this point, which is what you want. And then, what I simply do is I add some more water, because I can see it's going to need some more water. So I put this in the sink. I add some more water. I get as much of the water in as I need. And just so you know, I filled this pot to about the bottom of this handle right here on the side of the 16 quart. Now I turn my oven, or my stove rather, back on high, and I bring everything back to a boil. Once everything is back to a boil again, then I'll simply shut it off, stir it up. At that point I usually bring the bones out, and I scrape as much of the meat off the bones as I can, and any small bones that may be inside I discard, and I leave the big bones inside. I take the whole thing, I stick it in the refrigerator overnight. That lets everything mixed together chemically. I want all of these nice spices and the meat and the potatoes and the onions and all that to mix in evenly. One thing I forgot, very, very important ingredient. Garlic. I forgot the garlic. I'm glad I just remembered that. Hold on one second. With the garlic, what you want to do, and whenever I prepare garlic, very, very important, and I can show you exactly how this is done, is I get the cloves out. I usually put 2 or 3 cloves of garlic in one of these, and I washed this and bleached it again while we were on the break. You get the knife out, and I cut the garlic in slices as well with my very, very, very hair shaving sharp buck knife that I use here. Okay, and I cut it into very small chunks. Okay, when I cut my garlic into small chunks, we're going to do something with a fork here in just a second and show you how this is done. Okay, small, small, small. Okay, I just dice it up. You can hear that starting to cook in the background again. We want this garlic in there as well. Anybody that's a cook out there, there's a lot of people out there that are a better cook than I am, but no one ever complains about my cooking. Everyone seems to love my cooking. I have some relatives that are chefs, and I know they're going to watch my videos and just shake their head and say, "Mark, come on." And that's okay too. Okay? All right, now that we've got the garlic minced down, we're going to take a fork and we're simply going to squeeze the fork so that the garlic goes through the fork like so. That's what we want it to do. We want it to mash down and squish the garlic up into the fork. Okay? Very, very, very important. Okay? Helps to pulverize the garlic, and it helps to bring the spices and things out. And then what I simply do with my fork, okay, is I bring it over here and I put it all in my hand just like I did before. My improvised backwoods chef table, and we put it in the pot. So now that we have our garlic added to the mix, like I said, I stir it all up, I bring it to a boil again, get everything in a rolling boil for a few minutes, let it cool down, put it in the fridge, let it sit overnight, get it out the next day, boil it one more time to bring everything together again. If you see any more fat, take it off and enjoy it. It's my scrap stew. Thanks for watching Barlow Bushcraft.